I'm John Schwab. Janet and I are welcoming you to part 2 of our Saturday Matinee with Friends, talking with friends at home with director Mike Newell.
That's right. We had such a great time speaking with Mike. We realized we had enough for a 2-part episode.
Two-parter, which means
know.
fasten your seatbelts for more time with the maestro of movies.
He is indeed. So come on board for part 2 of the real Magic Mike as we go from his, I know, I love that. I love doing that. As we go from his childhood story.
I would love to see Mike Newell.
As Magic.
Stage.
Yes. Well, as we go with our Magic Mike, from his childhood stories in part 1, where he talked about his amateur actor parents and his early days of training at Granada Television to breaking through in feature films. And Mike is now talking about the things he learned in life and his career lessons along the way through his amazing and varied directing career. So let's listen to what makes Mike so magic.
You're listening to Cinema, Sounds and Secrets. Enjoy. And that's an order.
Well, our life hopefully always informs us as we're going through our work.
Well, I mean, look through the list. There's good ones and there's bad ones.
So we should go to the next big one. You mentioned Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
but there's Enchanted April.
Oh, well, don't we? Yeah, Enchanted April.
Enchanted
yes, of course.
April.
Oh my God!
Because that's
yes.
what a gorgeous cast, and your first time with a big cast of women.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, and wonderful women in such a beautiful place with all those wonderful actors. I mean, it's a potpourri of
Yeah, that's a
wonderful
good.
She was
ensemble.
very funny. I mean, they were all likable.
Yeah, I mean,
Miranda, who had a big
Miranda
cast.
again.
Miranda,
yeah.
Joan Plowright,
Yeah,
Michael
and
Kitchen.
Miranda's a very demanding person. You don't get away with shit with Miranda.
Well, she sensed trouble, didn't she? You just didn't.
Yes.
Just didn't.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And she could be trouble too. But if you listened to her, she was all right. You just had to listen. But the others were okay. The one who was difficult was, who's the most famous English actor of the post-war period? Laurence Olivier's wife.
Joan Plowright.
Joan Plowright.
Yes.
And Joan was playing. She had a very good comic talent. She could be funny, and she could be funny by being true. She wasn't doing Frankie Howard funny.
Right.
So God knows that's a thing. So she could be real and funny at the same time. But of course, she was very. In herself, she wasn't posh. She was the daughter of a Yorkshire. I think was he a journalist? I can't remember. She had a brother who was a big deal in television, and in order to get to the set each day, this was a town in northern Italy, Portofino,
Yeah,
in which
I love Portofino.
very,
My God.
very, very rich people had their weekend houses.
Yes.
Right, and the boats of these people would come in on Friday morning, and each boat, and it might be quite a small boat, had a helipad pad on the back.
Oh my gosh!
And then in the middle of the afternoon, you could hear the helicopters coming, all the way down from Milan. All of them landed on their various helipads on the boats, in order then that they should be on this town, which was built on at the bottom of a cliff.
Yes.
It's a cliff.
They should become the elevators, the lifts of the owners of the boats when they went up to change for swimming and have their dinners and all that kind of stuff, and then come back down to the sea for fun.
Oh,
and they used the helicopters for that. So they
there you
went
go.
down
Hey.
all day, yes. So
I love it.
we had to walk. You couldn't drive anywhere in Portofino. You could get to the harbour, but that was it. So to get to the location, we had to walk up, and we had to walk for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that, carrying all the gear.
Jeez.
And at the top, we would find the electricians, and this was the time of the great American general of the time was a man called, his nickname was Stormin' Norman.
Right.
Mr.
Oh,
Schwarzkopf.
Right.
Schwarzkopf.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stormin'
Blackhead.
Norman.
He was a big, tough old bloke, and one of the Sparks, the electricians, saw us all trailing up and said something to his mates, like, "Oh, look at them, oh, poor darlings," and I thought, all right, and so I started to curse them. Right, I would walk on and I'd say, "You lazy f***, what are you doing? You've had your breakfast, have you?" And they thought this was a hoot. And so it started to go two ways. Joan thought it was real.
Oh.
Joan thought that I was actually cursing the electricians.
Oh.
And all it meant was that we were doing a very good job cursing one another, and it was tremendous. We all enjoyed it. But Joan was outraged and started to protest. And she would find difficulty with all sorts of things. So she said to me one day, she said, "You never rehearse. You never rehearse. You just go crash, bang, wham, straight into a shot. I never know what I'm doing. And you don't seem to care." I said, "Joan, we will stop filming right now. No more filming today. We're going to rehearse, Joan. Now, what would you like to rehearse?" She said, "I want to rehearse with my stick." She had a walking stick.
Yes.
"I want to work with my stick." And so she did. And I remember catching, because Miranda was, the cast was there, and we were rehearsing a scene around a dining table.
In that beautiful little room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there was Joan with the stick. And Miranda was having to duck under the... It was hysterical to watch. Absolutely. I wish we could have shot it. Anyway, so there we are. That was Joan. And then Joan realised that my relationship with the Sparks was actually fully developed.
Yes.
Right. Was one of pure love.
Yes.
And so she took me out to dinner, and that was very nice of her.
Oh God! Well, it's one of my favorites. I love
Yeah, it's
watching
great.
it.
Right.
It's just
Yes, people...
beautiful.
It's yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then and Into the West, and then your Four Weddings and a Funeral, which is again so different.
Well, the one that connects the two actually is a film in Ireland.
Yes,
which
Into the West, which is a beautiful.
Boy, was that a difficult film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never make a film with children and animals, right?
Yes.
So it was about a horse
And a
and
boy.
two little boys.
Yeah, those beautiful.
It took us 9 horses to make one horse,
Oh my goodness.
and the 2 little boys were tremendous. I adored them. There was one scene where, and the little boy was only 9 years old. Was he 10, maybe? And he had to, the horse, the scene required that the horse had to be spooked by being in a space that was too small. And he then started to destroy that space,
Right.
which was the flat that they lived in this big tower block. And the only way that you could shoot it was with the camera, the horse, and the little boy. And me trying to duck out of the way the whole time. And the horse is huge. I mean, the horse weighs 3 tons or something like that. It's enormous. And what had to happen was that we had to spook it.
Oh,
You couldn't fake it.
Right.
The horse had to be spooked, and the horse had to go for the room.
From the department.
What? I'm serving you with the summons for keeping a dangerous horse on council
All
property.
right, boys, we'll come with a horse.
Get away from them, boy.
Papa! They're taking her!
Now you keep going.
Papa! Stop them! Stop them, Papa! I learned to read! I don't care if you drink! Stop them! Stop them taking dear nose! Please, Papa! Stop them! Use the needle for...
Take it easy now.
But the other thing that you couldn't cheat was that the little boy had to be trying to control him. The little boy had the bridle in his hand, and he was trying to control him, and he did. The little, he was so courageous.
Oh, the children are beautiful.
You know, he actually, and the scene is tremendous because of that. He's this tiny little child. And they wouldn't have let me do it today.
No.
It would be unthinkable.
Yeah.
It would be actionable. But they were great. I love the Irish.
Yeah.
And there is no such thing as an Irish person who can't act.
Right.
They can all
and tell
act.
stories and sing and
they're
do
just
everything.
grand. It was in the end. It's a story about grief and how do you deal with, when you're very young, you don't understand what grief is. How do you deal with it? Because their mother is dead.
Yes.
And it's because it's about something, because it's not just, I don't know what, sometimes you don't know what they're about. You just, you need to pay the rent or something. I don't know. But it was clear what this film was about. And so therefore my dad, never short of an opinion, my father. And he was, after Four Weddings, there were all sorts of people who wanted background.
Right.
And so they would phone him up. And he would say to people like the Heart's Advertiser, the local newspaper, the big deal in his life. He would say yes, he'd say yes, Four Weddings, yes. It's, of course, it's not his best work,
That's hilarious.
Darling Dad, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, on we go.
But Four Weddings, now, was that something that came to you? Was that it was a project brought to you,
It came off my agent's secretary's desk.
Wow.
And I was waiting, as one very often did, to see my agent. There was a lot of waiting in that game. And I was just flipping through the scripts that were piled up on this girl's desk. And she said, "That one's funny."
Ah,
right.
Nice.
I said, "Oh." And I started to read it there in the office, and then simply at the end I said, "Do you mind could I take this away?" And she said, "Yeah, it's not going anywhere."
Oh my gosh!
And indeed, it was like Donnie Brasco. It was just like this.
Was it?
You could see people's coffee rings on the front.
Oh my gosh! How many people? Yeah, the different size cups.
How many people have read this script? Right, a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you tell me, were all of Hugh Grant's fucks in that first scene in the script?
Yes.
They were.
Everyone. Well, so let me tell you the story about that.
Okay.
After we'd finished the film, it then goes through a process where you have to okay the print. You have to say, yes, that's the print we'll screen. And for that, you have to go into a commercial cinema because it's got to be in battle conditions, as it were. And that was a day when Bernice was working, and our au pair girl for Lizzie, who was at that stage 7 years old, had arranged that 6 of her little friends were going to come round to play in the morning. And so I said, well, look, the only way that we can work this is if you come with me and you sit down in the front row of the cinema, and it's very rude to begin with. So I want you all with your fingers in your ears until I throw you a signal, right? Yes, they said, fine, off we went. So down we go, and Hugh starts up with the fucks, of which I think there are 17 or something like that. As they went through, first I saw one little hand with one finger go up, but then very quickly, all the hands went up, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers. And these little girls, they're all girls, they were counting the fucks.
Oh my God.
I thought it was hysterical. And of course,
hilarious.
the whatnot, the au pair, who was a very a subversive girl in her own right, she thought it was very funny.
Oh my gosh.
How great.
Anyway.
That's genius.
Yes, 17, I think. They all walked out. In the first real important screening we had was the what's that skiing place in next state up to California? It's called
the Oregon.
What?
Oregon or Washington?
Was it the Washington, Oregon
No, no,
Film
no, no,
Festival?
no, no.
Oh,
It's-
did you go to Sundance, you mean?
Oh,
in Utah?
Sundance.
The Sundance.
Oh, you
we
went to
were at
Sundance in
Sundance,
Utah.
okay?
Oh,
but we
God.
weren't in the cool bit of Sundance. The cool bit
Right.
of Sundance is up the hill.
Right.
Right.
The boring bit of Sundance is down in Salt Lake City, okay?
Right.
And so we were in the boring bit. We were the opening film in the boring bit.
Right.
And all you could hear for the first 5 minutes was the crash of seats coming up as people walked out. They all walked out because of the swearing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, you were in Mormon country, so
Yeah,
you know.
yes.
Oh,
Oy.
gosh. That's
Anyway.
that's funny. But fortunately, I mean, people sat in their seats.
Right.
Yeah,
for the
I mean
most
that
part.
was a massive hit. It was the first kind of I was over here at university. It was the first film that I think I went and watched 2 or 3 times in the cinema. I loved it. I thought for me it was getting as an American coming over, and I came over in 1993, so it was the summer of '94 when I got married.
Wow,
I think
that
I think I told you this story, Mike, when we spoke before. I got married in '94.
Were you still a student
I was
at
still
that
a
stage?
student at university. Yeah.
Yeah. Where?
At Durham
Right.
University.
Yes, you
where
told
I
me
got my
that.
GT.
I remember,
So
yes.
so when we were getting married, we told everybody, because my family came over, and the only thing they knew of English weddings was 4 weddings and a funeral. So I just said, listen, guys, and they were like, this because it was in a marquee, which we don't do marquees. We're sitting on hay bales. It was just an English wedding. And my father-in-law gets up and goes, everyone, you don't know, there are microphones throughout the marquee, and they're recording background sound for 4 weddings and a funeral.
How marvelous! I didn't know that.
People would go up and have
Hilarious.
conversations.
Yes. How terrific!
So it's very funny. Good stuff. But yeah, what a great film, and what a fun again, an ensemble cast. You seem to put together beautiful casts, Mike.
Yes,
You know,
I've got a film that I very, very much want to make at the moment, which has an ensemble cast, and nobody wants to be in it because it's an ensemble cast, and
That's
no
so
part
weird.
is sufficiently big.
That's so crazy.
Well,
Oh, God.
anyway.
madness.
Maybe it'll change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hasn't changed yet.
So what we got next, Janet, on the filmography of
Donnie,
there's so
really,
many.
I mean, there's Donnie Brasco, which
Oh.
I think it's one of your favorites, isn't it?
It's what?
One of your favorites, is it, Donnie Brasco?
Yes, it's got a couple of good
Yeah.
scenes in it. That
Yeah.
there's a wonderful
one or
moment.
2, Mike. 1 or 2.
Well, no, but there's a moment
Yeah.
where, I mean, of course I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
Of course I am. It was a bold thing to do, to take on that tradition,
Yeah.
which had been so
Allie, take him out.
fabulously done
Outside, thank you.
by Coppola.
Right.
You know, how can you do better than that?
Yeah.
And the only reason that you could even attempt it was that the irony was that Al was going to play the lead role. So Al, who
Wow.
for the world is Michael, who is the cold-eyed,
Yes.
cold-hearted, icy-brained
Yeah.
general of his
Mafia,
army.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this little no-account common soldier fuck-up in Donnie Brasco. It's a complete reversal of the audience's expectation. And that's why Al wanted to do it, of course. And he was very, very good. They were both marvelous, and they enjoyed one another. He and Johnny, absolutely, they were very fond of one another. Johnny came in and saw Al play his last scene, for instance.
Oh, wow.
Al
Okay.
gave Johnny a guitar as a birthday present and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they were close to one another.
You could tell that was on the screen.
Yeah.
You could absolutely see that on the screen.
Yeah.
A
What
real
was the question?
a real warmth. Well, just
We just-
between them,
just-
just what it was like to be in the film and filming that, and what it was like with the cast, and because it was so realistic. I mean, it just felt like you were seeing that story of Pistone and what he went
Yes,
through. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a lucky film.
Yeah.
Four Weddings was a lucky film. It was a ludicrously lucky film.
Yeah.
But Donnie Brasco was lucky too.
Yeah, and then you have, and then of course, and from that to again from Brasco pushing 10, and then Harry Potter, which is again a very different kind of film, but it has kind of all the things that you love, which is about friendship and bonds and people's sorting
Yeah.
through.
There's a key thing in the Harry Potter, which is it's significant. The actor involved, don't you dare. The actor involved went on to become a considerable star,
Right.
and that plays Cedric.
Cedric Diggory, which is Patterson.
Rob Patterson.
Rob Patterson.
Rob Patterson.
What's his name again?
Rob Patterson.
Patterson.
Yeah.
That's right.
Patterson. No.
Well, for my money, the two key, we were talking about drilling down into a
Yes.
subject.
Yeah.
And obviously, the fact that a human being dies is important to that story. The writer and I loved the writer.
Yes.
He was a marvelous man and a tremendous writer. And he lived in California, and I was working in London, and he used to send me stuff overnight. He used to send me rewrites overnight.
Yeah.
And I would then call him at the beginning of his day, which was, say, 4:00 in the afternoon my
Yeah, for
time.
your time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would start to talk to him, and within a syllable or two, I was simply giggling because
Nice.
A, the stuff was very funny, but B, it was so true. It was so humanly true that it just made you laugh. And it was a difficult film to make because it wasn't a straight line. It looped about all over the place. And it was a film that was being made by a crew which already knew how to make the film.
Yes.
Right.
And I didn't.
Right.
And that was quite difficult
Right.
at times.
Well, I think
found.
you're right. You saying that it goes all the way. It's one of the first ones with so much is happening outside. It's
So much is getting wrapped up.
There are things. There's what's going on behind the scenes, which is Voldemort trying to get Harry Potter to touch that Horcrux. You've got the kids going through school. You've got the Goblet of Fire tournament. You've got so many things happening
Yes.
that you mentioned to us before. It could have been 2 movies.
Yes, it could.
But you said it couldn't. But
Yes,
they wanted
it could have been, and indeed Warner Brothers wanted it to be. Alan Horn
Yes.
is the name of the guy who ran Warner's at that stage,
Right.
and who was supremely generous.
Right.
I mean, to say that I didn't have to make 2 films when he deeply wanted 2 films, what? Wow.
Yeah.
He had to answer to the board for that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
where were we? What were we talking
think it
about?
was.
So just saying that the different, what I see.
What the point of the movie was.
Yeah.
Well, the point of the movie is that somebody dies.
Yes. And again, grief.
And
how do you deal with it?
and therefore we are all vulnerable. Even Harry, who is sometimes a difficult character to deal with in your imagination because he comes through so much apparently relatively easily. I'm sure people will hate me saying this, but anyway. In that one, the children stop being children.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And they, for the first time, they face real opposition.
Yes.
And that's not just Ralph Fiennes, although
Yes.
Ralph
Right.
Fiennes was tremendous in the part, and God bless him. But the point about the story is that as soon as you see the actor who is playing Cedric, that he is the doomed fighter pilot.
Right.
He's the guy that the girls are chasing, and he is the guy who is going to get his head blown off at 20,000 feet.
Right.
Jeff Roll.
That's it.
Sorry.
That's
Right.
it. That's
I
it.
knew
Jeff
it.
Roll. Well, how do you know that about him? To start with, you know it because he is a glorious specimen of young English manhood, and
Right.
you knew as soon as you saw him that he
Right.
was, your Spitfire is this way, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you chiefly know it because his father, just magnificently
Yes.
played by Jeff Roll.
Yes.
What a fabulous
That's a lovely.
gift he
It's
was to
amazing.
me. He was so good because his father loves him beyond expressing.
100%.
Yeah.
He can't say how much he loves him. And right at the end of the story, when they crash back into the
Yes.
the arena, and Jeff Rawle, Cedric Diggory's father, thinks that his son has won the competition because he's arrived with Harry, but he's arrived back first. What he doesn't realize is that the boy is dead.
Yes.
And of course I asked him to do this. So I had plans, and I had plans from many, many months before, before we actually shot this. But that's not the point. I didn't do it. He did it.
Yeah.
And he howled like a dog.
Yes.
It was like
Mm.
Yes.
King Lear, howl, howl,
Right.
howl, howl.
For God's sake, Dumbledore, what's happened?
He's back. He's back. Voldemort's back. Cedric, he asked me to bring his body back. I couldn't leave him. Not that.
It's all right, Harry. It's all right. He's home. You both are.
Keep everybody in their seats.
A boy's just been killed.
The body must be moved, Dumbledore. There are
Too many people. Let me through.
Let me through!
Let me through.
That's my son! That's my boy! My boy!
Oh, get up. Easy. Easy. This is not where you want to be right now.
No,
Come on.
no!
It's all right. I got you. I got you. Come on. Easy now.
And he broke your heart because you had seen him right at the beginning of the story worshipping his sun-kissed boy, and here he was at the end, and he couldn't even celebrate his death. He could only howl over the body.
Yes.
And for me, that was the best moment in the movie, and the reason that it was, if we talk about sort of drilling down into what lies underneath the subject, that's what lay underneath the subject for me. It was that, fine, Hufflepuff, the sorting hat, all the kind of shebang that is that. But at the end,
It's real.
What's going to happen to you? Well, you're going to die.
It's a great. Listen. I think if you were to do a poll of people's favorite Harry Potter films, Goblet of Fire comes on top.
It is the
Good.
top one on the list.
Glad to
I
hear it.
looked it up. Yeah,
Right,
it's just
that's great.
their favorite.
Yeah.
Because I think it brings
and
everything.
maybe that's part of it. It probably is part of it. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
on we go.
Yes.
And for me, then take on Garcia Marquez with Cholera, Love at the Time of Cholera. With
Tripped on my sneaker lace with that one.
well, only because it's such an incredible piece, and you have Javier Bardem, who I've always
Yes.
admired.
Yes, he's a fine actor.
Yes.
And the writer, whom I liked very much, who was an old South African guy who wrote The Dresser.
Oh, right. Yes.
He said, I've been trying to get off this movie ever since I got onto it. And I said, why is Ronald
Harwood.
That's it.
Harwood.
Ronnie
Oh.
Harwood.
Yeah.
And why is that wrong? And he said, because I don't think it's doable. It's too big, it's too subtle, and it was all of these things, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I could do bits of it, and there was a thing that I thought was, I thought was very moving, and I thought that I had got through the sort of the outer protective layers that I drilled in again.
Yeah.
And it was that the story is of a 17-year-old boy who falls in love, who never marries, never makes love to the object of his desire.
Right.
She goes off and marries somebody else very successfully, who was played by a marvelous actor. He goes on into middle age and then finally into old age without ever looking for an unactionable word. Well, anyway.
Like embracing love, really being able to.
It's not marriage, it's not sex, it's not what it is a bit
Just
sex.
love, but like.
Oh, that's a dodgy word.
Connection. Connection.
Love can be a dodgy word, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at the end of his life, they come together, and what you've watched is this huge arch of story. And he knew I couldn't handle it. The novelist.
Oh, Garcia Marquez.
Garcia. You know, he knew I couldn't handle it, and I think everybody else did too. It was too big for me. It exceeded my abilities. I loved the book so much. I used to go home at the end of a week, and it's a dreadful place to make a film because the weather is, I mean, it's the white man's grave. It really is. You have to have yellow fever injections and Christ knows what.
Yeah.
It's constantly at about 98% humidity and around 98 degrees of heat. It's oh God.
Yeah.
It's very wearing. I couldn't find. I used to go home at the end of a week. I was telling you that, and I would read the novel. I might read the whole fucking novel
over the weekend.
Over the weekend, not because I was looking for something, but because I enjoyed the novel so much.
Right.
We never got the script right, and you know, Ron was right. He was not able to do it, and he was a very good writer. And if you haven't got the script, you haven't got the movie.
Script is king, yeah.
That's true all the way through.
Always, isn't it?
Yeah, that one's funny.
Yeah.
That girl saying about the script and there's Richard
Curtis.
And it's Richard Curtis. It's only the second movie he's ever written. You know, that lived entirely on the brilliance of his script.
A script.
And as I say, it was very lucky. The luck seeped through to absolutely everybody involved.
Yes. Right.
The woman who did the flowers wound up doing the flowers for Bill Clinton's White House.
Of course. Of course.
As you do.
So the writing is very important. And, you know, in the end, almost certainly, what Marquez, who used to send me messages from Mexico, so you're frightened to come and see me, are you? No, I'm not. Gabriel, it's a 4-hour flight from where I am to where you are, and I haven't got the fucking time, so I'm not frightened. Why don't you come down? You've got a house here. Like, just come down, pop down and see me. Oh, no. There was never a relationship between me and Marquez.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a proper relationship, although I was very fond of him and thought him a marvelous writer, between me and Ronnie Harwood.
Right.
And so it didn't properly exist on paper.
Right.
That was its trouble.
Right. Roger Michel once was interviewed somewhere, and he said, there are 3 really important things for a film. And he said, the script, number 1. The script, number 2. The script, number 3.
That's Hitchcock.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually, he's
Really
quoting Hitchcock.
Yeah, and it is it. And Hitchcock was right, and it's always
Yes,
right.
it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Well, after that, I mean, the films after that were, you know, Prince of Persia and Great Expectations, which I know we both have such a love of Dickens.
I just wanted to make a Dickens.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah. And with Rafe, too, which is, I think, such
I don't know what it was. It had some good things in it. There were a dozen scenes, perhaps, which were good.
Yeah.
It was a good set of actors. It was a decent script. I didn't choke the fucker to death. I don't know why. I was in a mood to do it, and I loved the book. It's really the only book. Well, it's not. If there's anybody out there listening who's got some millions of dollars and endless patience, the Dickens that should be done, because it is the proto-Dickens, it's the Dickens from which everything else comes, is Dombey and Son.
It is Dombey and Son. Do you know when we met? That's the first thing we spoke about.
Was it really?
Yes, it is.
I love Dombey.
I love Dombey. And
You know, listen, it's one that's no one talks about. Everyone goes to Great Expectations. Everyone goes to Oliver Twist. Everyone goes to
Dombey and Son.
And do you know why? You can see if you lined them up in front of the fire there, you would see Great Expectations.
Yeah.
You would see Our Mutual Friend.
Yeah.
You would see the one with the fog at the beginning.
David Copperfield.
Yeah.
All of that, and they're all about that thick. Dombey is that thick.
Yeah, Dombey and Son is brilliant.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And Florence is one of the great young females in a
Yes,
novel.
and everybody says, "Oh, Dickens are the girls," but you could do it with Florence. She's okay.
You can do it with Florence. She's. I
So,
love Florence.
but anyway, it's and Captain Cuttle,
Yeah, it's just great. And Walter and his grandfather.
and they have there's that wonderful scene where Captain Cuttle lives with a woman. He has the top floor of her house down on the docks. She is a member of a Christian sect who demonstrates its devotion to the story of our Saviour,
Right.
by jumping up and down.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so the key moment in any religious service with these people is they jump up and down, okay?
Yes.
Until the moment when the floor gives way under them
Yes.
and they all crash into the basement.
It's great.
You can see the
what
scene,
it must have
can't
been
you?
like to sit
Yeah.
on Dickens' shoulder when he thought, now what's going to happen is the floor's going to collapse. God, it's funny.
And you had Guernsey and the sweet
Yes,
potato.
Guernsey's okay.
Another
And then I got to be an old bloke, and the real thing was that COVID came along.
Yeah,
And that did
knocked
nobody
everybody.
any good.
No.
It knocked all of us out.
Yeah. But listen, I mean, we've covered some insanely, like the. I don't know if we've talked about somebody who's had such an elastic career, Mike, as you. Do you know what? Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
It's small and it's wonderfully large, and you seem to be adept at corralling a crew like Harry Potter, but also at something like Enchanted
It's
Abrams.
not that.
Yeah.
It isn't that.
Can you tell me what is?
Yes,
the
I
secret
can.
sauce?
I absolutely can. What it is that there is a compulsion or an invitation to get under the skin of something and to get down into something until that something says to you, okay, here I am.
Right.
And for instance, they're all a bit like that when they start. They don't, I mean, for instance, Love in the Time of Cholera, I never got to it because it was too big. It was too gorgeous and generous, and he's just too good. A film comes along, and a film could only ever do a fraction of what's there.
Yeah.
And I never got to that. But Great Expectations, for instance, you could get down into that. There was one thing. Sometimes it's one line in the Potato film. She says at some point, her agent, because what she doesn't want to do, she doesn't want to be a popular novelist. She doesn't want to write frilly shit,
Right.
which is what she has been doing up to now. And her agent says, you should write the story of this, which is the story of her trying to track down this person. And she starts to cry, and you don't know why she's crying. And she finally says, what if I'm not good enough? God, is that something that sits on your shoulder?
Of course.
What if I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
No.
And so that's, there will be, usually, there is a moment like that, like the father of Cedric Diggory howling in grief, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
What
There's
tiny
something-
little thing.
There's something that
Moments.
gets you and makes you go.
Yes, that's right.
That's the seed. That's the mustard seed.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's in Four Weddings, I always think of the funeral scene where he stands up and reads the poem and stop all the clocks.
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it is that.
It's just one that always stuck out for me. But what is the moment in Four Weddings? I mean, if you had a...
Well, There's a moment that is particularly vivid to me, and it is the second wedding, and he realizes that the girl is there again.
Yes.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen her for, I don't know, a year or something like that. And he's wearing a ratty old morning coat, and his hair's all over the place because was his main point of style. Very good one too.
Main being the absolute
Right.
main one.
Yeah. And he sees her, says hello, rushes off, gets 2 glasses of champagne, comes out onto the terrace of the house with the glasses of champagne in his hand. He leaps down the steps with the glasses of champagne. And as he goes down the steps, he passes one of his friends and says, "This is a bloody great wedding." And the next thing that happens is he walks from one shot into another, and she says, "This is my fiancé."
Yes.
Yeah.
Genius.
So he gets smacked.
Yeah.
Immediately. And I love him in the moment before he gets smacked,
Yeah.
where he says, "This is a bloody great wedding,"
Yes. Yeah.
because he's innocent. And that's what's so lovely about Hugh. He's such a good actor.
Yeah.
Hi, Fee. That's yours. That's yours. See you in 5 hours.
Something happened.
Yeah, it has a bit. This is a bloody great wedding, you know. Hi. Well, you look perfect. In fact, you probably are perfect. Well, how are you?
I'm really well. Charles, I'd like for you to meet Hamish, my fiancé.
Excellent. Excellent. How do you do, Hamish? Delighted to meet you. Charming surprise to find Carrie back in the country.
Yes, well, took a lot of persuading, I can tell you. Come on, darling, I told James I was going to get you. You're beginning to think I've totally lost control of you already.
I'll see you later.
I've never thought this before. This is a discovery of today. He's an innocent. I thought that what was important about him was that we had invented the ultimate example of the kind of refusenik, of the guy who isn't going to do it because he can't do it because he can't commit, and a commitment phobe. And suddenly I wonder, I'm not sure that that's true. That may be too simple. But what is true is that I'd love to know whether he thought this out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that his mode of speaking is a stutter.
Yes.
Right.
And so what you could say is that his mode of speaking is insecurity, uncertainty, not knowing where it's going next, and so on and so forth. And he had very carefully crafted this quality in the character.
Oh.
So that, for instance, I'm coming back to something, but you get to the last scene of that film, and it's in rain.
Yes.
And film rain comes down in chunks the size of your of your thumb.
Yeah.
And so it automatically ruins any sound. He had to do this long speech about. I wonder whether it's all stuttering, right? And of course, we were going to have to loop it. We were going to have to go in and stand in front of a microphone in an absolutely dead room, and he was going to have to reproduce his performance. And I thought, you're looking at least a week right there just to get that one speech. It's going to be awful. And he did it in 2 takes. And he did it because that was how he had seen and constructed and thought about his character, that insecurity. And so, of course, he could do it again. Yeah. And again, and again, and again.
Right.
Of course he could. And I didn't know that until 30 seconds ago.
Right. That's incredible.
Good old Hugh.
Good
Yeah.
He's a
old
terrific actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It all looks so easy and light and floppy and this and that. It's not.
Nope.
He works really hard.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything I've ever seen him in, I'm looking. I'm going, oh, this guy can really act.
Right.
I mean, he's
Yes, he can.
yeah. I mean, from impromptu.
And I think it is
to-
partly it is that he rehearses. He rehearses obsessively, and that's very good.
Let's get some questions, Janet.
This is a nice one because we kind of talked about it a wee bit. But is there a favorite director that you loved, and did you have a mentor, somebody in particularly special that, whether it was at Granada or somewhere that you felt like was really kind of a mentor person for you?
Well, there are two great directors that I always wanted to be. I wanted to be Jean Renoir.
Yes.
Because the first film that my dear dad, first grown-up film, took me to was, and he took me to the old academy on Oxford Street, was La Grande Illusion. And I didn't really know what I can still, amazing.
That film.
So
yeah.
there's that.
Oh.
There's The Leopard. Who's that great American actor who acts?
Burt Lancaster.
Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a scene. Doctor said to me the other day, he said, "How old are you?" I told her. And she said, I don't know why, but it's quite often the case, that people live through decades and snuff it at the beginning of the next one. So, now why did I tell you that?
I don't know, but I'm
Is that
bricking
from The
myself. I'm
Leopard?
51.
You've got a long time to go.
I'm right at the beginning of this decade.
And there's a moment at the end of, which if I had to pick one moment, this is a ridiculous thing to say, but the movies makes me cry. They sort of always have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are lots and lots of those moments. There's a great moment in the original version of The Manchurian Candidate, where Sinatra reads out the citation for the Medal of Honor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
In its true form.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely tremendous. But the thing that I don't think it's the sort of the desert island moment.
Right.
Is at the end of The Leopard, where what he's been trying to do with the whole movie is he's a traditional aristocrat. He's a medieval figure.
Yes.
He has a wife, a mistress, a priest, a gamekeeper, and he has a son. He knows that his time is over. Mm-hmm. He knows, that's it. He knows his time is done. Not that he's sick or anything like that, although he's not in great shape, but he knows that the era has moved now beyond him. So he's desperate that his son, who is brave, handsome, wealthy, and aristocratic, should marry in such a way that means that the next generation, the next period of history shall be assured, shall be solidly founded. And he finds, to everybody's surprise and shock, he finds the utterly beautiful daughter of the local mayor of the town which is within his estate. It's his town. That's Claudia Cardinale. And
so beautiful.
She has this is not the moment, but she has this marvelous thing where you realize, oh, fuck, she like that. And she laughs, and she's got this great, blousy laugh. Right. And you're stunned by it because, A, she's so beautiful and so perfectly female, and also it's so vulgar. Anyway, that's a great surprise. But what's his name, the actor?
Burt Lancaster.
Lancaster
Yeah.
knows that she is a life force.
Right.
She may be a vulgar life force,
Yes.
but she's a life force. And that's what the boy is going to need.
He'll
That's
need
what
it.
the next age is going to need. And he has a ball, which appears to be much too long. I never understood why he didn't cut it more, but he didn't. And at the ball, it is to celebrate the engagement of his son to Claudia Cardinale, the mayor's daughter, the one with the dirty laugh. And he's beginning to suffer something. He's not well. And the room is hot and full of excited, sweaty young people drinking too much and dancing still. And he leaves it because it's too much for him. And he goes out into the square. And as he gets to the square, he's got his coat and his stick.
That beautiful cane.
And as he gets to the square, a priest with two altar boys goes tripping past him. And of course, they're going to a deathbed. That's why they're there. They're going to hear
Last rites.
somebody's last rites.
Yeah.
And he kneels down. Burt Lancaster kneels down out of respect for the priest, out of respect for the soon-to-be dead, out of respect. But also because he recognizes that this is his end as much as it is anybody else's end. This is what happens to human beings. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And it just closes down. It's like an iris down.
Yeah.
It goes
Right.
dark.
Yeah, the Visconti. Beautiful
And
direction.
that's... fuck, it's so good.
It is.
Anyway, next
Yeah.
question.
I would say, maybe we'll just have one more, is that, and it's something we touched on, and that the real heart of your stories and the heart of filmmaking, and what we always talk about when we're engaged, is really going as deep as you can into the journey, and that's the whole point of any film, is going to the heart of your journey, and that it seems that seems to be a real something that we don't always get in a lot of things today, and yet it's so important to get to that bottom point, to go into that well and be there.
I don't think the rules change.
Right.
I think that's always true.
Going to be
and
it.
I think, this year I saw 2 or 3 really good movies, of which that's true.
Right.
And there's a marvelous teenage story called How to Have Sex, which is it's a tremendous film.
Mm-hmm.
It's about this poor little 17-year-old girl who goes with 2 of her mates to a holiday island off Greece because what she wants to do, how to have sex. She wants to know what that's like. And she finds the wrong guy, of course.
Of course.
But the way that it's dealt with, and it's full of insane energy. People dance by just pounding up and down.
Yeah.
And it's got hundreds and hundreds of extras in it. Don't know where she got. There's a girl, a girl director, less than 30, under 30. Keep an eye on that one. It's very moving because she gets it wrong. And then there's a wonderful comedy called It's the Big Black Area Down.
Oh, is it Rye Lane?
Oh, Rye Lane.
Right.
Rye Lane.
Isn't it
Yeah.
great?
Oh, what a great film.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's tremendous.
You know,
and it's so funny and light and
they're funny. They're
and
funny.
it looks like the whole thing looks like an improvisation.
Yeah.
I know
Yes.
it's
And they're
marvelous.
wonderful.
It was just great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went along with that journey and smiled the entire
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And that's a good thing.
and
You
then
know?
there's the zone of interest.
Yes.
Right.
And so, you know, I mean, if you get three in a year like
That's
that,
good.
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
good, yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to make.
Oh, and also the leftovers. Is it leftovers,
leftover-
holdovers?
the
Oh,
hangovers.
holdovers.
Right,
Oh,
hang-
that's just.
The
Um,
holdovers,
which
and
is tremendous.
To my top 5, to round that off, is
Yes.
Past Lives,
Past
which
Lives.
I just
Is what?
Past Lives.
Yes, I haven't seen that yet.
Do it's beautiful.
Is this the Korean?
The
Korean,
Koreans,
yeah.
the friends.
Right.
Yes.
It's
It's
telling
our
a story.
reverse brief encounter story.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
yeah. But
Sure.
those 3. So I'm gonna. I will listen. I could Google how to have sex. The problem is my inbox will be ruined. But I'll find out where I can watch it because
Right.
that's one that I haven't seen.
Well, you might find it on streaming somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how it was made.
Yeah.
Well, here's to more good films.
Yeah. I mean.
Yes.
More good films.
So there we go. You know.
Yeah.
So that's that's 4 or 5 in a year. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
That's pretty
Amazing.
good.
Thanks for joining us as we got the lowdown from one of the film industry's inside insiders, the funny, smart, and truly all-around amazing human being, director Mike Newell. Just wonderful. Really,
he is,
really
and you know what? Just what you don't get is that he invited us to his house, and we just sat in his sitting room and chatted about movies, and that was a real. I'll never forget that, Janet. It was a real blessing.
It was a treat, a special treat. So we hope that comes through in the show in part 2 today. And we will be back with more. But until then, I want to let you know that Cinema Sounds and Secrets is a production of CSS Sounds, original music by the composer and pianist Murph DePayer, sumptuous sound editing by Sam Boyer, graphic design by Paul Kulos, right-hand help from our super efficient production coordinator and webmaster, Isabel Roig, social media, Scarlett Mosher, and our amazing team of production, intern, research, and writing assistants, Tara Lindenbaum, Dexter Blanchard, Jose Arroyo, Caitlin McAtee, and our devoted editor interns. There are a few.
There are a
Amy
few. I
Hattori,
think
yes.
I think we're at a soccer team yet. We're almost at a full soccer team.
Yes. Amy Hattori, Ashton Wang, Kevin Sanchez, Brittany Lopez, Maura Donnelly, Ket Azubova, Sophie Weiss, Avery Peterson, Charles Becker, Gabriel Morea, Jonah Fiden, Kevin Tharane. And my gratitude, as always, to the most brilliant wingman ever. And Batman is always going to definitely wish that John had his back. The excellent John Schwab for his production support, love of film, and good humor. And my very special thanks to Pendleton, proving that not only is Dog a woman's best friend, he's actually her best therapist as well.
And soon we're going to have a deep dive talk with Mike, whose journey from son of amateur actors on the outskirts of London to one of film's most beloved and esteemed directors, about his style, work, and his preparation. Has changed over his incredible career because he has had so many different things.
I mean, that's what happened at the end of our talk. We just realized there's like another level of discussion.
I think that talk is like the epitome and perfect example of skimming a person's career.
Yeah, because we could have gone on and on. So we're going to get to do that too. So we're very excited. Because Mike's career really has given us stories that are filled with magic and mayhem, murder, laughter, tears, and great endings.
Oh, I love me a great ending, Janet.
Yeah, me too. So here's one right now. You can find out much more on our website, Cinema Sounds and Secrets. How great is that, right?
That's a good ending.
On the films in today's wonderful Saturday Matinee podcast with our dear friend Mike, along with recommendations on where to find films, great books on cinema, special interviews with filmmakers, and more. And please send us your questions and thoughts at cinemasoundsandsecrets.com. And we really do mean that.
Yeah.
So you will find us on all of your favorite streaming services, including Apple, Spotify, and there's so many now. They're like,
I mean, listen, we can go on to our distribution platform and have a look. So, if you're looking for a distribution platform, Libsyn, they don't sponsor us, but they're very good. And you can see all the ones that we're distributed on. You go, I did not know that many streaming platforms out there, but they're out there, and we're on all of them.
Yes, we are. We are. So we hope you really enjoyed today's special show. I'm Janet Doolin-Jones.
And I'm John Schwab.
And that's Penn.
Saying we'll see you here next week. At the movies.
Cinema Sounds and Secrets is produced in collaboration with Rankin Entertainment.
Hello?
Hi, you're soaking.
No, I'm fine, I'm fine. Comes a point when you're so wet you can't get any wetter.
Okay, I'll come up.
No, please don't. I just wanted to check you're okay. Not busy killing yourself or anything, but you're fine, so... I shouldn't have come to the church this morning. I'm sorry.
No. Wait. It was all my fault. I mean, I'm the bastard here. And it definitely sorted out one thing, which is marriage and me were very clearly not meant for one another. Sorted out another big thing as well. There I was standing there in the church, and for the first time in my whole life I realized I totally and utterly loved one person. And it wasn't the person standing next to me in the veil, it's the person standing opposite me now. In the rain.
Is it still raining? I hadn't noticed.
The truth of it is, I loved you from the first second I met you. You're not suddenly going to go away again, are you?
No. I might drown, but otherwise, no.
Okay. We'll go in. But first, let me ask you one thing. Do you think, after we've dried off, after we've spent lots more time together, you might agree not to marry me? And do you think not being married to me might maybe be something you could consider doing for the rest of your life? Do you?
I do.